This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Go. What's going on, real MVPs? And welcome inside an edition. I usually say another edition, but it feels like the first edition in a long time, and it will be, of what we're talking today. It's another edition of What's Your Fantasy. I'm Brandon Swanson. Across from the table for me is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And this is the first time that we are back talking baseball in many months. So the last couple of months, it has been fantasy football. We've been talking and hopefully helping to lead you to your fantasy football championships. Hopefully that ended up going very well for you. It did not go well for Ricky and I as a collective, but I think individually we both made the playoffs in our fantasy playoffs, so we at least were good enough to get to the playoffs, not good enough to win it all. But you know what? There's always next year, and Ricky knows that well, being a Cubs fan. And that leads us well in to tonight, talking again about baseball and many topics that we will cover here tonight. So many to talk about. Certainly some that are a little bit more on the at the forefront than others, but certainly so much going on with Major League Baseball. Thanks to the Astros for cheating, for helping give us a little bit more fodder to talk about. But I would like to say hello to all of our Twitch viewers. Is that right, Ricky? Did I get that right?
You are correct.
Who are watching us live?
And also, I'm an idiot. You want to know why?
We knew that.
So, in all of the chaos, so that everyone knows what was going on tonight, we came into the studio, and every single time the location where our studio is changed things. How it used to be is you walk into somewhere and it's just, oh, the internet works. Well, now there's a special login where they come up with a prompt page. You got to make up a fake name and a fake email, because why use your own email to get on the internet? They don't even check to see if your email's right. It's just, boom, here you go. Get on our internet. So you're creating a step for no reason. So thank you for making my life harder. But there's one thing I forgot to change in all of our chaos before the show. I forgot to, before we go live, rename the Twitch stream about our first topic. So as we were starting, it still said what the Rick and Johnny's was. And we were not talking about Thor, Love, and Thunder. We're not talking about Christian Bale. We're talking about the Astros and the Red Sox to start. So I am changing that right now as we speak.
Well, very good. We're going to probably have to dock you some pay for having that wrong this week.
Yeah, that paycheck, it's going to come right out of the paycheck, go right into the MVP fund.
It is. Oh, I was going to say my fund, but MVP fund's fine. Yeah, that'll be fine. Just don't let it happen again.
No, of course. Can't do that.
So, Ricky already alluded to what our first topic's going to be. We're going to talk about the Astros and the Red Sox and how they have managerial openings that need to be filled here very, very quickly. But again, before we get to that, I already said hello to our live Twitch viewers. Thank you so much for checking us out and viewing us live, like like I just literally said. And also a thank you to all of our patrons. We appreciate you. We are very thankful for all the support that you give us each and every month, and some of you each and every day with everything that you are tuning in for and commenting on and liking and well, you're already subscribed, but I just wanted to say subscribe because it seemed right. But I also want to throw out to everyone else who is not a patron, go and be one. Go and be one. If you like this content, if you like sports, if you're ready for something different than Skip Bayless yelling at Shannon Sharp,
Skip.
And who isn't done with them? Skip, especially. Annoying. I mean, I've liked some of his tweets, but I don't agree with everything he says.
You know who I'm done with more?
Come over to us.
Orlando Skandrick. I'm done with him because he is one. Him and Kendrick Perkins are the two guys. Once they start talking, bloop, I turn the TV off. Can't stand them.
I don't really watch ESPN anymore because it's not very good.
Orlando Skandrick is on Undisputed with Shannon and Skip. He's the cornerback by the Eagles that got cut?
I know the name.
Okay.
I don't watch their show.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't give a shit.
Okay.
At all.
What do you watch sports-wise?
Football games. Baseball
Do you watch
games.
any of the talk shows?
No.
Okay.
The
Brand's
only
like, the only opinion that matters is up here.
Here's the thing. Actually, that's false.
Mm-hmm. It's a joke.
If I'm going I wasn't saying false to you, but it's false that I don't watch any talk shows. I don't watch any talk shows on ESPN because I think ESPN has become crap. Anyone listening from ESPN, sorry, you're not good anymore. And you've been outdone by MLB Network and NFL Network. I like their hosts better. I like the people better. I think they have more insightful things to say. I think they're a little bit closer to what's going on because obviously they're right in on that one specific topic. I like them better.
Yeah.
I like them a lot better. So ESPN, you kind of down the tubes. But, and everyone knows it. It's been going on for years. So I really wanted to do everyone knows that it's terrible. It's been awful. Everyone knows that it's been bad for years. I said it, so it's true.
We're going to go into ESPN. We're going to drain the swamp. Drain the swamp, people. Drain the swamp.
Hashtag said. Okay, so we're done. We're done with that. Don't leave us if you left us for that. Don't. We were just making fun. So, anyways, now we're getting to it. Took a while to get there, but as everyone knows who's paid attention to baseball and baseball news over the last couple of weeks, even the last couple of months, and even the last year or so, because this has been something, Ricky, leading up for not just a couple of weeks. This has been a year at least in the making. First originally reported by The Athletic, I believe it was The Athletic, that there was cheating, potential cheating going on within the Houston Astros organization during their run to the World Series in 2017. And this was done by using technology and outfield camera to be able to steal signs, and then an elaborate plot, apparently orchestrated, supposedly, by Alex Cora, and helped by his good buddy and now former fired buddy, Carlos Beltran, who
didn't even manage a game.
Who was for 5 minutes the manager of the New York Mets. I hope he still puts it on his resume though, going forward, because I mean you were there, you did something. But apparently they orchestrated banging on trash cans to help set up to help hitters know what pitch was coming, and then more allegations coming out now that guys like Alex Bregman and Jose Altuve actually wore a some sort of buzzer or wire on them underneath their jersey.
Well, that got blown open by Beltran's niece on Twitter.
And now I have no idea if that's his niece or not, but that's
I mean, I'm going
what
with
they say.
The Twitter world told me it's his niece, so I'm going to go with.
And the Twitter world, of course, is never inaccurate.
Also, there was a step we missed where this is where I jumped on the train. Was he was on ESPN, which I was shocked that someone from the YouTube world would be on Outside the Lines. But his name is John Boy. Do you know who John Boy is on YouTube? He does those. I've sent you some of his clips where like he'll take a clip from a game and he'll talk over it and he'll make like funny jokes about it and stuff like that. I've sent you at least one of his videos.
Okay, you probably have to refresh my memory, but sure.
And he's the one, he did a video on the Astros and then Outside the Lines because of that, because he broke it down and everything, and you can hear the bang bang from the trash can, they had him on Outside the Lines. So that's where I got on the train. And I was like, oh, this is something. And now look at what it snowballed into.
So again, picking up with the last comment before Ricky jumped in there with that, is that potentially the Astros, some of the Astros players and two named players, were wearing a device basically under their jersey that it would buzz and they would know then what pitch was coming. And if that were the case, I think that that would lead to a strong case for those players being thrown out of the MLB for life. And I think that if that came to it, if there was an investigation, will there not be, I don't know, into that matter, and it was found out, they absolutely should be thrown out of the game of baseball, because that's a clear and conscious decision to break the rules, to cheat, everything like that.
Well,
and I think that we could get into it too if we wanted to. I know we wanted to talk search candidates for both the Red Sox and the Astros.
Well, there's a lot that goes into this.
But there's also I think the fact I'm very... And I understand both sides, but I would love to hear people's opinions, and I'd love to hear yours. Mm-hmm. We're not hearing a lot about what players could have been involved outside of names that were leaked in terms of Bregman and Altuve potentially. Yeah. And we're not hearing those names because those players talked, and by talking, they got immunity. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, the thing that I thought of when you were talking about the players and you said should be kicked out of the game was the one tweet I saw is if Pete Rose was banned for life for doing what he did, then I think what Altuve did and Bregman did are worse. Yeah, correct?
I think so.
I know that the whole gambling, at the time it was bad to and it's unethical to gamble on a game. And I don't even think, was Pete Rose gambling on games that he was managing? Or was he just gambling on baseball in general? That's the part I can't remember.
I think he may have been gambling on games he was managing.
Well, and that's the unethical part. If you're actually in the game, then you can affect how the outcome is. But it's like, if I'm a Portland Trailblazer and going off of basketball, and I'm going to bet on a Bulls game, well, I'm not in that game. I can't affect that game. So that's why I never understood, if Pete Rose wanted to bet on a Cubs game when the Cubs weren't playing the Reds, then why would it matter? Because he isn't going to influence that game whatsoever. This one, to me, is much bigger than that. You're actually cheating to basically get a competitive advantage and win a game. And the big thing that the MLB has said is they're probably not going to strip the titles from the Astros and the Red Sox, which I know people on my Twitter have asked me, well, would you strip the titles from them? And part of me doesn't like that because the only reason is there's a lot than just, part of me wants to say there's a lot than just that one instance that goes into a ball game. Like Altuve's at bat, that is one at bat. That is one player that's wearing that. Now, we don't know if all the Astros could have had it on, plus the whole trash can thing, but you got an entire side of the ball, too, where the other team, their offense could have been better. But then you could throw out that, well, how would they have done if they knew what was coming? They would be able to hit Verlander better if they knew that a fastball was coming. So, I mean, if they stripped the titles, I wouldn't be mad, but there's a part of me that kind of, maybe it's just because I kind of see that as a dark spot on the game, which all of this is, because it's basically cheating. But I was shocked when they said no players would be punished, because there's that whole video that after Beltran's niece came out with, that they're wearing the little devices under their shirt. It was, I think it was a playoff game where he hit, what was it, a walk-off home run, and Altuve, you could see with the jersey, he starts doing this, hey, don't rip off my jersey. Don't rip off my jersey. And after he was asked about it, he said two things at the time that no one thought about, but now looking back, it was okay, those things don't make sense. The first one is that he's shy. I'm just shy, which everyone on Twitter was well, here's a shirtless Instagram pic, and here's a shirtless Instagram pic, and here's a shirtless Instagram pic. You're obviously not shy about taking your shirt off. The second thing he said, not even minutes later, was that, my wife, my wife got mad and I don't want to get yelled at. It's those two things don't go together. At the time, we were just oh my God, that was amazing that we weren't thinking about it. But now that you start connecting the dots, it's he didn't really know what to say. He wasn't going to say, yeah, I've got a device under my shirt and I didn't want you to find it. Then there's the other picture, I think it's Bregman, where he's at one of the desks they have post game, and you can literally see a device on his shoulder taped to his shoulder, which at the time you're probably thinking, oh, well, they just did that because it's a production thing. He's doing an interview. But now everyone's wait a second. If you've got a mic in front of you like this mic that I have in front of me, why would you need something? You and I have done production. Not once have we had a hand mic in front of us and they're we're going to tape something to your shoulder. The only time they've taped something to us is, hey, this lapel mic doesn't have a clip. Let me tape it to the inside of your shirt. And that obviously wasn't the case. So, I mean, Now we're totally like these questions are totally coming. And I agree with King E in the Twitch chat who says BS. It's total BS. And anyone involved with this should be held to that punishment and be punished for it. No one should be given immunity, as the MLB said.
And that's why, I think that they did it because they knew that they would probably get into a hairy situation with the MLB Players Association. But at the same time, the Players Association, they shouldn't want cheating. Yeah. They shouldn't want to stand up for a cheater, for someone who actually cheated. I don't think you have any problem. I think other players and people on the part of the MLB Players Association would say, eat them alive. Yeah, if they're ruining our game by doing that, we can't protect them. We can protect them in other instances for sure, but this isn't one of them.
Yeah, there's been people tweeting about that too, of like, oh, well, Manfred didn't go after any of the players because he's afraid of the Player Association, which, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he was. Because if I was Manfred, I would have to look it up, but I think the CBA for baseball is coming up soon. Which, if he went hard after players, the one thing you do not want if you're a commissioner is a lockout.
You're not going, but here's the thing, though, and why...
That the PA shouldn't matter because cheating
You're not going after players, you're going after cheaters.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to identify it. You're going after cheaters.
Yeah.
Ricky, I was at dinner with a couple of my friends last week, and we were talking about this. We had brought this up, and, obviously an interesting topic and certainly current. And one of my buddies, he made a good point, and I wanted to get your thought on this too. And we've talked about this area of sports for a long time and have seen it. But my buddy said, he goes, I don't understand why they're not willing to take away the championship. Why would they not be willing to take away the championship from Houston or from Boston when in college sports they have no problem vacating wins, vacating championships, vacating anything they need to? And that's college. And there's still a lot of money in college.
Yeah.
But is there more so in the MLB? And I think the answer to that is yes. There definitely is more money, and there's more people, I think, affected. But why would it be that in college, they have no hesitation.
Recruiting.
We'll strip you of this, we'll strip you of that. And then... And that MLB, though, you got to recruit people to come to your team. Not the same way. I get it. But
let's be honest. In the way I would go into that is recruiting. It is way different. Yes, I know that in some cases, like, for example, a guy we're going to talk about later in Nolan Arenado, where it's basically, hey, you know what? He's a guy that he's upset that the Rockies suck, basically, and he wants to play for a winner. That's why he wants out. Basically, from what everywhere that I've seen that's reporting on the trade rumors for him, you're going to get guys like that. Like, hey, I want to go play for a winner, and you'll have some recruitment there, like here and there, but usually it's going to be like guys like, for example, I'm going to use a basketball reference, what happened with the Miami Heat, where D-Wade says, hey, LeBron, let's come play down here. Hey, Chris Bosh, let's come play down here. Like, the whole reason of why everyone thought Mike Trout was going to leave L.A. Like, oh, is he going to go play with Bryce Harper? Oh, is Chris Bryant going to bring Bryce Harper over to the Cubs? Like, that's the recruitment that you see in pro sports is, hey, I want to go play with my buddy. A little bit of it as I want to go play for a winner. But as a pro, it's all about mainly playing with where you're going to be happy. But also, once you get families and you get wives involved and kids involved, it's more like, all right, what's going to affect them as well? And moving a family across the country every couple of years is not ideal. Like, look at Phillip Rivers, where when he moved his family out of San Diego last week, it was a big effing deal.
Because he's got 19 kids.
Oh, yeah, he's got his own baseball team. Sooner or later, they'll be the best team in the MLB. I'm going to mark that down on paper. But with college, it's a lot more like college recruiting is a little sketchier. Where if you don't have that championship to your name,
especially if it's Rick Pitino.
Exactly. Yeah, with all the strippers and the little after parties they have at the
strippers,
hotel.
They're not whores.
Yeah, well, a little more was going on than just that, Rick. But college recruiting is basically Wild West, where it's like whatever dirt or whatever advantage you can get over your opponent, you got to go ahead and do so. You were mentioning before we went live, if I was watching the Aaron Hernandez documentary, and it's like, look at that even, where his dad, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but he originally committed to UConn, and I believe played a year or two at UConn, but he was committed to UConn, like hardcore. UConn locked him up before he was even in high school.
Hernandez?
Yeah.
At 14, I think they did.
That's right. Because his dad went to UConn. His brother was at UConn. He was going to go to UConn. His dad passes away. He doesn't have that same person in his life to maybe say, hey, like, man, I can look up and go. And he flips and goes to play for Urban Meyer in Florida. So it's like you're dealing with college kids, and I think that the NCAA realizes that. So they say, hey, we're taking this title away. You can't use that as a chip to recruit college players. Where in the MLB, it doesn't really matter. If you took away that title, if I want to go play for the Astros, I'm a grown-ass man. I'm going to still go play for the Astros. So that's what I would say, where it's like, I mean, I don't know why they don't strip the titles. I don't know why they're making a huge deal about it. The only thing I can think of is that they don't want it to tarnish the game.
And I think that it would affect what I said, because I thought it was an interesting point. I thought it made some sense. And
Kingy also agrees that they should take the titles away.
And I wanted to bring it over to you and get your thoughts on it. But, I think that a reason they may not do it is, I mean, it could be the same both ways, but for the fans, I feel like that could really not only dishearten, but disconnect a fan base then. Yeah. And I think that would be hard. Not that this hasn't necessarily. I mean, there's still going to be, I'm a Houston fan. Oh, so you're a fan of cheaters. I mean, that's how it's going to be. Even if you are, if you aren't, no one's going to be a fan of cheaters. But, if someone still says, I love Jose Altuve, or Alex Bregman's my favorite player. Yeah. Like, that's tough for a little kid who is growing up and Alex Bregman's their favorite player, or it's Altuve. And now someone's going to go, they're a cheater. I mean, that's your idol. Well, and now they're a cheater.
Let's be honest. Like, when we were growing up, especially, I know me, with you, it was because you were born in 93, correct?
Yeah.
With you were the Bulls' second repeat. That second repeat to you was almost like the first repeat to me, where it's like you were, 3 when the first one happened? By the last one, you were, what would that be, 6, 7? You were 8 years old. So, like, maybe the last one, you're like, okay, like, that one I remember because you're 8. For me, I was 6, 7, and 8 during those, so I remember the second repeat way better than the first one. Hell, I mean, even back then, I mean, we didn't have Twitter, Facebook, and all that, but, like, if we did, everything that would have came out about Michael Jordan and his gambling, like, that would have destroyed him now. Like, if he was a player now, like, that would have destroyed him, especially with this. It's changed recently, but the stigmatism that we used to have on
gambling's all he's doing, not the worst.
Well, I'm assuming there was more than that, but gambling was the big one. That he liked to bet on the ponies, but I don't think they were ponies that he was betting on. But basically, like, that's the thing. Like, back in the day, like, Michael Jordan wasn't as golden as people might have thought, but that goes into a different discussion that I know Dave always gets into, that athletes shouldn't be role models because half the time they're not as perfect as they seem to be. They're not all Tim Tebow.
But here's the thing, though, and Tim Tebow, God love him. I
got married recently.
I did. I saw that. I saw that he got married. I love Tim Tebow. I love Tim Tebow.
God, I hated him in college.
Great guy. Loved him in college. Loved him with the Broncos. Him so much. And you hated every bit of his success.
I did.
I've just always liked Tim Tebow, the way that he's carried himself, and I don't. I mean, everything, his faith, everything like that, I don't think he's doing that for publicity. I think he's doing that because he really, truly cares about it, and he wants other people to know and understand that it's okay to be like that, too. So, but to the point that Dave's making is, I think that they can be role models, but I don't think that we should expect that they're going to be perfect. We're not perfect. How can we expect someone else to be? Who's on a stage where everyone watches everything you do? No one's even watching everything we do.
Unless your name's Antonio Brown, but...
What a psychopath. He needs to be the next person for CTE testing because he's got it. I know he does.
Do you see the video of when the cops were at his house?
Yes, he's a lunatic.
He's an idiot.
He's a lunatic.
Yeah, complete goon.
He's never getting a job again. Not that he wants one, because one day he'll come out and be like, I don't want a job. Next day he's coming out saying he's going back to college, and the next day he's coming out and wanting to completely beat up his girlfriend and talk like that in front of his kids. So he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
But I don't expect that athletes need to be perfect. They shouldn't be. We're not. Yes, they're on a pedestal and held to a higher standard, and I get that. I understand it, but at the same time, if they do something wrong or they mess up, we shouldn't, berate them for it and act as though, well, we have never gambled before. I will take red. Never. I mean, but we can't act like that.
Can I get all these chips on 21 Black, please?
Yeah, but how dare you gamble? I can. You can't. I can have fun. You cannot. We can't expect that. Yeah. So I think that's ridiculous. But let's move into now that topic that actually this was going to be about. But there's so much that goes into it first. So the Houston Chronicle, we'll start with Houston. The Houston Chronicle has put down six potential managerial or candidates for their managerial opening. So I'm going to throw these out at you. And I want you to let me know if you like one of these or somebody else.
Can I just say one off the bat that just don't even say his name because he shouldn't be hired? Dusty Baker. Don't hire him.
Okay.
Don't hire him.
Okay.
You could still say his name, but don't hire Dusty Baker.
Okay. Ready? Okay, so we've got Joe Espada, who's already part of the Astros organization.
Yep.
John Gibbons, former, Red Sox and Blue Jays manager. Dusty Baker. Eduardo Perez, currently with ESPN, who's not that good. Eduardo is ESPN's son.
Yeah.
Jeff Bannister, but I like their Sunday night, Monday night baseball. All I'm going to say. Jeff Bannister and then Buck Showalter. Out of those six, or if there's somebody else that you think, what are your thoughts? Houston Astros potential manager going forward.
It's just, to me, it's so hard. And the reason, I shouldn't say so hard. To me, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's, I'm blanking on the word. It's wrong place, wrong time. If I'm the Astros, I should have been why couldn't this have come out before Joe Madden got hired? Because then I could have gone after Joe Madden. But for me, out of those names, the one that I think they will go with is Buck Showalter. The two that I would definitely not go with is I wouldn't go with Dusty Baker because I just don't think that Dusty Baker's that good of a manager. I mean, he might be a guy that gets you to the playoffs, might be a guy that gets you to the big series, but then your team will just choke in the end. You're never going to win the entire thing under Dusty Baker. I also would not hire Joe Espada either, because the thing with Joe Espada, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to put blame on him, but I think because of what has happened, any coach in that organization, you're off limits. I am not hiring you. I am looking for the outside, because the thing I think the Astros and even the Red Sox, you can pull them in a little bit, is culture change. I need to change the culture because, especially with the Red Sox, or not the Red Sox, the Astros, if this has been going on since 2017, that's 3 years of this cheating culture being okay in my clubhouse.
And I just need to say really quickly, John Gibbons was never the manager of the Red Sox. For some reason, I thought he was at some point, but I knew he definitely was with the Blue Jays. I don't think he was ever the manager for the Red Sox. So my apologies before anyone tells me to piss off or that I'm really dumb. So
I'm trying to think if you confused him with someone else. No Gibbons in the last few years for the Red Sox.
Who's it been? Before Cora?
It was John Farrell.
John
from
Farrell.
13 to 17.
That's who I confused
Bobby
him with.
Valentine had a year in 2012,
Farrell.
and then it was Francona from 04 to 11.
I confused him with Farrell.
Yeah.
Okay, so my apologies. Not John Gibbons. He's always been with the Blue Jays.
I think Buck Showalter is going to be the guy they hire.
I like that move. I like that move. I think Buck Showalter is a good manager. He had nothing to work with the Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you give him the talent that they have in Houston. I think that he can work with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's got the personality for that. I think he'll I think he'll be able to instill a good culture for them. Here's the thing that I find is really unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
I think H.A. Hinch is a really good manager.
Yeah.
And I understand he goes down with this because either he knew and didn't say anything or didn't know and should have known.
It's like Rick Pitino. You're the manager. You knew what was going on.
Or you should have.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfortunate because I do think he's a good manager. But I think Buck Showalter would be a good pick for them. I think that that would absolutely 100% work. I think he's a kind of a fiery manager who would certainly to turn around a culture there, which seems like it has been a cheating one. I think he could do that, and I think that either guys are going to buy in or he's going to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, for me, he's the one that I think is the I say obvious choice because I think that's the one they're going to go with. The other ones is, I mean, if you look at Gibbons, he's been with the Blue Jays since 2013, and I mean, hasn't done a bad job with the Blue Jays. He was, from looking online, he was with the Blue Jays for about 600 games from 04 to 08, then was not with the team, has been with the team from 2013 to 2018, hasn't been with them the last 2 years. Both times over a 500 record, and had 20 playoff games in his last stint, the 13 to 18, where he went a complete 500 at 10-10. Jeff Bannister's interesting too because he had 4 years with Texas. They were successful in those first two, winning the AL West in both of those years, but losing in the ALDS both years before he kind of had the fourth place and fifth place finishes in 17 and 18. I just think Espada's not the guy. Dusty Baker's not the guy. Eduardo Perez, he's the one that when you threw his name out, I was like, really? Is he the John Gruden of this group? And I only say that because do you think Perez going from broadcasting to managing, can he do it? Or has he been out too long? Because I don't even remember if he'd ever managed before. I don't even remember the last time he's even managed or coached. I just always remember him being in a suit and tie talking about baseball. Do you think that would maybe not be the right hire because of how long he's been in a suit and tie, basically?
I don't know about that because, I mean, you look at Aaron Boone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to say that Aaron Boone was, doing ESPN for a long time, but, I mean, he was a guy who, wasn't managing, and he was, calling games, for Sunday Night Baseball, and they went and tapped him, and they went and got him. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Good point.
To do that if they feel like he would be the best fit.
Yeah, he's never managed before. His last game was 2006, when he was with the Mariners that last season. So I just look at it and go, unless he knocks your socks off in an interview, he's another one. I think Buck Showalter's the guy. I truly do, because he's got the longest track record. Also, you mentioned his time in Baltimore where he had nothing to work with. But even before that, you look at his time way back in the 90s with the Yankees. Well, they got rid of him, or he resigned right before the Yankees became the New York Yankees that we all remember in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then same thing with Arizona, where he was there for 3 years right before they really got cooking with their World Series championship. I think their World Series championship came after him. I'd have to look that up. But even like with Texas, he hasn't, to me, had the best to work with. So why not give him a roster like the Astros? But at the same time, if you're a manager that comes into the Astros, how much are you doing, like what you said, shaking it up? Where, all right, I either got to change the culture, or these guys like Altuve, this guy like Bregman, I got to get rid of them. I got to get rid of them to change the culture so that I can. And I know Astro fans are going to freak out because it's like, why would you give up a talent like Altuve? But in order to, if you're coming in to change the culture, do you have to get rid of Altuve, get rid of Bregman, get rid of some of these guys that would have been under this kind of cheating regime cloud?
I think if those guys aren't willing to change and clean things up, if that's what they need to do, then I think that, I think you're starting to actively try and shop those guys around if you can. And I know that sounds crazy, but you're trying to change it. If you're trying to change a culture and you're trying to make a statement, that's something that sometimes you have to do. You have to make statement decisions that show where you won't stand for it. And I think that also shows, they couldn't get along or one was not buying into the other.
So you want to know something funny?
Sure.
Buck Showalter was with the Yankees in 92, 3, 4, and 5. The year he resigned was 1995 when they lost in the ALDS. Guess what they did the next year? Won the World Series. Then he was with the Arizona Diamondbacks, 98, 99, 2000. Was fired in 2000. Guess what they did the next year in 2001? Won the World Series. So, I mean, early on in his career, Buck Showalter is a guy like wrong place, wrong time. He's basically the Rick Renteria. I throw that out there mainly because of what happened with him and the Cubs, where it's like, oh, Rick, you're doing great, but hey, we're going to fire you because there's this guy, Joe Madden, here. And then we win the World Series. We didn't really change much about the team besides getting Aroldis Chapman and signing, Jason Hayward and Dexter Fowler were signees when Madden came in, but pretty much the same core, and go ahead and win the series. But then even with Texas and Baltimore, what did he really have to work with in those years? I think he's the guy. I'd be shocked if it's Dusty Baker. I think he's the second guy, even though he should be not even on the list, in my opinion.
So, Ricky, I'm going to move on now really quick, just so we don't go too long on topic one.
It's got a lot in it, though.
Over to the Red Sox. So the Red Sox and Alex Cora parted ways, or in other words, they fired him. And they get rid of Alex Cora after, one, he's involved in the Houston Astros cheating scandal, and then the Red Sox were coming under investigation for their own possible cheating scandal in the same year that they went to the playoffs and went on to win the World Series.
It's kind of like if you cheat, there's a really good chance you can win in baseball. That's what I'm deducting from all this.
But there's also a very good, if you cheat and get away with it, you'll probably do it again.
Yeah.
And Alex Cora is a perfect example of cheat, gets away with it, cheats, does it again, now caught. So the Red Sox are looking for a new manager as well. Who are you thinking? Because it's not as clear for the Red Sox on who might be their next manager. I think that it could still be someone from the pool that we just talked about with the Houston Astros. I think it could definitely make sense for a John Gibbons because of the fact that he has experience in that division. I think it could also make sense for a Buck Showalter if he weren't to, get the position, let's say, with Houston, experience in that division, which I think makes things a little bit, easier, that you understand the people you're going to be playing feels like 90 times during the season. But outside of those names, who do you think could be somebody that the Red Sox go after and tab as their next manager?
Easiest decision ever. This is easier to me than the Astro decision. Okay. There's one name and one name only. Jason Varitek.
I knew
he should be the guy. because the three guys that I've been seeing are, first off, Carlos Feebles. You're out of the running right away. Just like Espada for the Astros, you're on the staff. You're part of the infection. You're not going to get hired. Because I have a thing where if you were a part of it, you're not going to be the one to change the culture. Ron Ronicky, probably saying that wrong like I usually do. I
think it's
Renicky. With the Brewers. Wikipedia is your friend, man. It has the pronunciation after I clicked on it. Ron Renicky. He's one that I'm kind of like about, but he's also a coach on that staff too right now. He's also currently on the staff. So if I'm looking at both of them, no, get out of here. You were there also, although Renicky does have managerial experience when he was the Brewers manager of what I remember him being. Veritek to me is the easiest decision. And the reason why is I know what people are going to say. Ricky, he's also involved or has been involved with the Red Sox organization. He was the special assistant to the general manager. But let me just read this. This is a little snippet about what this was back in 2012. On September 27th, 2012, then Red Sox general manager Ben Carrington announced that Veritek had been named special assistant to the general manager. In that role, Carrington said Veritek would be involved in areas such as major league personnel decisions, evaluations, and mentorship and instruction of young players. Veritek is currently the special assistant to Claim Bloom, chief baseball officer. And I look at that and I go, who do you think were some of those young players in 2012? You know, you think any of those young players are still around now, possibly on this Red Sox team? Like, there's a possibility that some of the players he worked with that were the young players are still on this team. B, he's got experience with that. So to me, I look at that too of like, cool, as you're bringing guys up through the farm system, he has that experience of working with these young players, especially a Red Sox team that if you're looking to trade Mookie Betts, what are you going to get for Mookie Betts? Young players that you can then build this team and build your farm system. So for me, this is the grand slam. Plus, all of Boston is behind this guy. So if you're worried about Boston being mad at you about Alex Cora, make them happy. Sign Jason Veritek. You're not going to be upset by doing that.
So this was a quote from Bloom. He said, "I've been very impressed talking to him. The bond he has with the fans of this organization, that speaks for itself, and I know our staff thinks just as highly of him. You don't often find people who have as distinguished a playing career as him that also has the ability to connect across a wide spectrum of people, and he certainly demonstrates that." So I think that's a huge endorsement from the chief baseball operations person. And I think that speaks a lot to Veritek, to his character, how well people take to him. I agree with you, Ricky. When I've been looking at this and following this, certainly within the last couple of days, when you feel like, okay, the Mets already made their manager hire, the Red Sox and the Astros have to be coming soon, and Veritek could very well be the guy because it makes some sense. He's been in the organization playing. He's been in the organization basically as a talent evaluator and seeing things and doing things at a higher level with the general manager and the president of baseball operations and everything like that. I think going and being the manager would make a lot of sense, and it wouldn't be a stretch by any means. And fans, like you said, would very much take to that decision.
Well, and the one thing I will throw in there is, can't remember which article I saw it in, but it's the Astros who their owner said he wants to have a decision about who the next manager is by February 3rd. So next 2 weeks, we'll find out who the manager is by the latest for the Astros.
Well, Ricky, I think we're going to wrap up topic one. Lot to talk about.
Can I say one last thing?
I was just going to give you a chance to say one last thing. Yes.
There's only one name for the Red Sox. If Veritek isn't the guy, there'd be only one other name I would think about if he was available, but he's not. Terry Francona. If the Indians were to fire him and the Red Sox don't go with Veritek, let's say they go with Feebles and they hire him. At the end of this year, if the Indians got rid of Francona, if I was the Red Sox, I would then fire Feebles. I would say, you know what, it's been nice, but we're going to let you go. Kind of a Rick Renteria situation. We're going to let you go and go get Terry Francona and bring him back. Because I think if you're not going to go with Veritek, Francona is the only other person that I think would be a fan service mood, unless I'm wrong and there's a Red Sox fan out there that's like, fuck you, Ricky, I don't want Francona anywhere near this team again. But from what I assume, Red Sox fans still like Terry Francona.
Let me ask you one more really quick thing. Mm-hmm. Just a quick yes or no, and then maybe a sentence explanation.
Yeah.
Ozzie Guillen. His name came up.
I thought about him for the Astros.
Would he make sense?
Yes, for the Astros. Cuban connection. I almost threw him out there for that one alone because it's like you've got Springer, Altuve. Like the thing that he was great with the White Sox was what the White Sox are. Like the White Sox have that Cuban connection right now. He's great for that. Plus, when you've got all these players that are more Spanish speakers, he'd be great in Houston. But the only thing that's kind of is all the Fidel Castro stuff that went on when he was, I think it was Fidel Castro, with the comments he made about Fidel and the murky waters he was in Florida. I don't know. That's probably blown over by now.
Time heals all wounds. Time heals all wounds.
I almost threw out his name when it came to the Astros.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening there. I really think that we're going to be seeing something here in the next probably week to 2 weeks for sure. And it'll be interesting to see how these two teams move forward.
So this has nothing to do with baseball, but we mentioned his name earlier, so I'll mention it now before we go on to the next segment. 20 minutes ago from TMZ via ESPN, Antonio Brown threw rock at driver from moving company before the alleged battery outside his home Tuesday.
Psychopath.
So he threw a rock at a moving company.
He's a moron.
Yeah.
He's
I just wanted to mention that because we mentioned him earlier.
He's a complete idiot.